My name is Astra, and for a long time my husband Brandon called my work your little job. He said it with the same smile he used when he asked the waiter for extra truffle butter. Pleased with himself. Harmless on the surface. Cutting if you were the thing under the knife. It started as jokes. The first time I shipped a product update that doubled trial conversions, he tapped his glass at dinner and said, to Astra, queen of spreadsheets, as if spreadsheets were the only instruments I knew how to play. When my team won an industry award, he posted a photo and wrote, proud of my wife's cute startup win, as if we were a hobby that happened to pay salaries and healthcare. He would tilt his head when he wanted to soften the blow. You are very good at the details, he would say. Vision is more my lane. Vision. His word for the story he wanted the room to believe. Brandon worked in enterprise sales for a logistics company called Fortis Supply, one of those old-line outfits with a warehouse smell baked into the drywall. His division sold contracts to manufacturers. His boss, Garrett, had a voice like a golf podcast and a handshake that told you how much he believed in rankings. Fortis's parent company, Arcadia Group, owned a small galaxy of Midwestern businesses, forklifts, freight routing, cold storage. They liked steady earnings and quiet quarters. They did not like being surprised. At home, mockery arrived in small envelopes. Do not bring work stress to dinner, Brandon would say after a day when a deployment bled into the evening. If I asked about his pipeline, he would tell me, patiently, that real revenue is different. When I drew a diagram on the whiteboard near our pantry, a clean arc of how predictive replenishment could replace panicked purchase orders, he snapped a photo and said, "That is adorable, babe," then sent the photo to Garrett with a caption I did not see until much later. I am not made of glass. I did not shatter. I learned to carry the weight. I learned that some men do not swing. They sand. They buff off your edges until you are smooth enough not to snag their jacket when they put an arm around you at someone else's promotion. The moment that changed the slope of everything arrived at a Fortis holiday party in a rented hall that smelled like chafing dishes and roses. The lights were too warm, the speeches too long, the laughter too eager. Garrett called Brandon on stage to celebrate a record year. Brandon took the mic and did what he loved most, he told the story. Big thank you to my wife, Astra, he said, palming my shoulder as if he were presenting a plaque. While she is over there with her apps, I am out here closing real deals. The room laughed. He finished with a shrug that pretended humility. Different worlds, same house. On the ride home, my world was a small square of window with cold streetlights slipping through. He was humming, light and pleased. You were a hit, he said. People love it when we banter. We do not banter, I said. You perform. He grinned. You are very sensitive tonight. I pressed my thumb into my palm to keep from speaking the entire archive I had inside me. I had a product launch in 2 weeks, a deck to finish, an investor who needed the final language on a clause that would let us retain our patents if anyone sniffed around an acquisition. I did not have the energy to teach my husband how not to be cruel. Congratulations on your record, I said, as if turning off a lamp. I am going to bed. He kissed the top of my head like a reward. That is my girl. That night I left my laptop closed and sat with a legal pad, the kind with the pale yellow lines that make thoughts grow straighter. On the top line I wrote, what changes if I stop shrinking? Then I wrote underneath it, everything. It felt melodramatic and true. I did not ball the page up. I dated it. I put it in a folder. 2 weeks later, I shipped the launch. It worked. The curve bent. Brandon did not ask how it felt. He sent me a link to a listing for a vacation rental and wrote, "We deserve this." When I asked to push it a week because a client wanted an on-site workshop, he sighed. This is exactly what I mean. You do not know when to put the laptop away. I booked the ticket for his dates. I refused the workshop. Then I called the client and told him I would do it the week after, and that if he wanted, I would bring a prototype of a forecasting tool his buyers had been dreaming about for a year. He said, "If you can do that, you will save us from Fortis by summer." Fortis. The word sat in my mouth like a coin you cannot swallow. I did not spit it out. I pocketed it. On the second night of that so-called vacation, Brandon left me at the bar to talk to Garrett, who coincidentally was at the same resort. When I walked past the pool to our room, I heard my husband say into his phone, "Do not worry, she is cute, but she will never scale." Cute. Never scale. The words were nothing I had not heard before. Hearing them delivered like a forecast shifted something in me that had been waiting for the right weather. The next morning, while Brandon slept late, I emailed a woman I had met once at a conference. Her name was Marisol, and she ran a fund that invested in unglamorous software that silently kept industries from falling apart. Our conversation had ended with her card in my pocket and a line I had not forgotten. "Call me when you want to turn your map into a road." I wrote, "I am ready." When we flew home, Brandon told me he was in line for a promotion. "Regional director by summer," he said. Garrett hinted. He looked out the window and smiled at his reflection in the glass. Big boy numbers. I kissed his cheek. "Congratulations." He squeezed my knee. "Maybe then you can slow down." I smiled without my eyes. "Maybe then you can keep up." He laughed as if I had made a joke. I had not. Marisol did not waste words. She never had. When we met in her office, a bright rectangle with plants that looked like they did push-ups in the morning, she listened, then drew a small box on a whiteboard and wrote inside it, "Replenish before panic." "That is the promise," she said. "You do not sell dashboards. You sell sleep." I laughed, surprised by how much I needed someone to say it that plainly. She slid a term sheet across the table. "This is enough capital to build your road," she said. "Not enough to forget how to drive." The money was not a mountain. It was a bridge. We used it to hire 2 engineers who were better at patience than at swagger, and a customer success lead named Tess who had a gift for speaking human and data in the same sentence. We rented an office that used to be a bakery. The ghost of cinnamon lived in the floorboards. It felt like a promise. The first pilot we won was not huge. A regional manufacturer called Steel River agreed to test our predictive module in one plant. The plant manager, a woman named Kira who wore her hair in a braid that meant business, said, "If you can keep my night shift from making emergency calls, I will tattoo your logo on the forklift." She did not smile. She was not joking. We went live on a Thursday. By Monday, the crates that used to arrive like apologies started arriving like plans. Kira sent me a photo of her night shift eating real breakfasts instead of vending machine dinners. "They think you are a witch," she wrote. A good one. Word travels in industries that pretend they do not gossip. Fortis heard. Not as a headline. As a whisper. Brandon came home one evening and said, casually, "Some plant out in Indiana thinks an app is going to fix their supply chain." He held my gaze to see if I would blink. I did not. "Apps do not fix anything," I said. "People who use them well do." He kissed the top of my head like a patient husband. Cute. A week later, I found out how Fortis heard. A mutual friend forwarded me a screenshot from Brandon's message to Garrett. It was the pantry whiteboard photo from months earlier with my arc labeled Astra's Fantasy Lane, followed by, "Do not worry, I have them on a leash." Leash. There it was. An object you cannot see that still burns your skin when you fight it. I did not throw the phone. I took a picture of the screenshot with the date visible. Then I made myself tea. Then I sat down and wrote a plan. It had 3 lines. 1. Scale Steel River quietly. 2. Land a portfolio-level advisory with someone who can move Fortis without Fortis's permission. 3. If a reveal ever comes, it will arrive clean, legal, and undeniable. The very next day the second line began to breathe. A man named Evan called from Arcadia Group. His title was Transformation Lead, which sounded like an apology for what he was about to ask. "We are looking at modernization across the portfolio," he said. Someone I trust says you can teach old companies to keep their promises. Someone I trust says you can get them to listen, I said. He laughed softly. We will see. Would you be willing to run a limited advisory for 3 of our subsidiaries? Outcome is a go-no-go on a broader program. You keep your IP. We get your brain. Which subsidiaries? I asked, keeping my pulse from my voice. He named 2 I did not care about and one that made my tongue go numb. Fortis Supply, he said. My silence must have carried an extra sentence. He added, quickly, if that is a conflict for you, we can. It is not a conflict, I said. It is a calendar. We signed a 2-page agreement that protected my patents, limited scope, and held Arcadia to a very specific confidentiality clause. If anyone leaks anything, Evans said, I want them to be afraid of our lawyer, not of you. Same, I said. We started with the 2 subsidiaries that did not share my last name when I signed a mortgage. I walked their warehouses and sat with their schedulers and learned, again, that most problems are people, process, and then product, not the other way around. We rolled out tiny changes that looked like kindness, a better reorder threshold here, a due date language change there. In a month, both saw enough improvement that the board liaison at Arcadia asked for a brief. I wrote 1 paragraph. If you want Fortis to stop making money from emergencies, I wrote, you need to stop rewarding the people who cause them and then fix them loudly. I did not put Brandon's name on that sentence. I did not need to. Culture will always fill in the blank. The night before the Fortis advisory kickoff, Brandon came home glowing. Garrett is pushing my promotion through, he said. Title bump this quarter, comp next. There will be a party at the end of the month. He poured himself a drink. He did not offer me one. We can finally get the lake house, he said. You can work from the porch. I folded a towel that did not need folding. That sounds nice, I said. He looked past me at the pantry whiteboard. Erase that, he said with a smile. It is messy. I left the arc up. I was done cleaning myself out of my own kitchen. Arcadia's building looked like every other building on that block, glass that tried to pretend it was not a mirror. Inside, Evan walked me past a wall of framed photos of companies that made things you only notice when they fail. We like boring, he said. Boring keeps lights on. Boring can be brave, I said. If you do it on purpose. He grinned. That is why you are here. He had set up a 2-day diagnostic with Fortis that was, by design, not Brandon's show. We met with operations, procurement, and finance. Garrett perched in the back of the room, arms folded, the way people sit when they want you to know they could leave at any moment but will stay because they are generous. I ran a simple exercise that reveals what people do not say out loud. Write down the last time a last-minute order cost you sleep, I said. Then write why it happened. The whiteboard filled with sentences that had nothing to do with software and everything to do with incentive. We keep winning by rescuing our own fires, one manager wrote. We celebrate the wrong heroes, another wrote. Someone drew a tiny ladder and wrote, if you do not fix the ladder, it does not matter how fast you climb. Garrett cleared his throat. We are very relationship-driven, he said, meaning, do not embarrass me. Same, I said. I am here to get you relationships with your own calendar. At lunch, Brandon texted me a photo of a flyer, promotion party, end of month, rooftop. He wrote, do not worry, I will give you a shout-out. I did not reply. I watched Kira's data populate on my screen instead. Steel River's plant had seamlessly used our module to reorder before they needed to. The night shift had not placed an emergency call in 6 weeks. I added a slide to my Arcadia brief. Not a victory lap. A receipt. On the second afternoon, Evan pulled me into a smaller room with a table that had seen real arguments. Off the record, he said, if we go beyond advisory, would you take an interim role over technology across the portfolio? You would have authority above subsidiary executives for product and process. Short runway. Big parachute. We need a spine, and you have one. My heartbeat did not speed up. It slowed. My brain did the math. I would need 4 things, I said. Name them, he said. 1. Clean governance. I will not directly supervise anyone with my last name on their health insurance. Fortis would report to a leader between us, and I would manage that leader. Done, he said. 2. Policy teeth. I want authority to implement attribution and incentive changes that stick past my tenure. Agreed. 3. Legal cover. If anyone leaks, I want Arcadia's letterhead to arrive before breakfast. He laughed. Consider it in the envelope. 4. The reveal happens after contracts are signed and boundaries are published. No drama. No rooftop theatrics. Music to my ears, he said. He extended his hand. Let us draft. I did not call Brandon. I did not tell him I had just accepted a role above his boss's boss. That is not because I am cruel. It is because I had spent years narrating my days to a man who turned my sentences into props. I was done giving away rehearsal time. Arcadia moved quickly because Evan knew whom to loop and whom to leave out. Legal, compliance, board liaison, finance. We had a signed agreement in a week. My title would be Executive Vice President, Portfolio Technology. The job was exactly what it sounded like: build a system that stopped rewarding emergencies and started rewarding people who made emergencies unnecessary. On the morning the press release went out, Brandon made coffee and hummed as he scrolled his phone. Then he stopped humming. He stared. He looked at me, then back at his screen, then at me again. This is a joke, he said. It is accurate, I said. You cannot be my boss, he said. I am not, I said. Read the second paragraph. He read. His mouth moved. You will manage someone who manages Fortis technology. Yes. He laughed, a hard sound. This is a stunt. It is a structure, I said. You can be mad. You do not get to call it names. He put his phone down like a weapon he wanted to throw. You did this to humiliate me. I did this to fix the ladder, I said. If you climb it, great. If you kick it, that is on you. He shook his head, stunned into teenage shapes. You and your little job, he said quietly, as if saying it softly made it safe again. I picked up my bag. It is not little anymore, I said. Neither am I. At Fortis that afternoon, the town hall was not about me. It was about process. I stood with the leader I had hired to buffer the conflict, a steady woman named Priya with a voice that could cut noise without raising volume. We announced 3 changes: a pre-order threshold policy, a quarterly attribution roll-up with names on wins, and a compensation plan that paid more for calm. Garrett smiled the way men smile when the person above them is watching. Brandon stood near the back with his hands in his pockets like a teenager at a museum. Questions? Priya asked. A hand went up near the front. A planner with a tired face asked, what do we do when sales wants to override the threshold for a friendship? I did not answer. Priya did. We call it what it is, she said. An exception. We log it. Exceptions cost money. I felt the room exhale. Not because the policy was perfect. Because someone had said the quiet price out loud. After the meeting, Brandon approached. He kept his smile wide enough for a camera that did not exist. Congratulations, he said. Big day. Thank you, I said. See you at my promotion party, he said. If you invite me, I said, I will attend. He blinked. You are unbelievable. I looked at the banner on the far wall that read, Reliability is respect. No, I said. I am very believable now. That is the point. Priya and I built the bones first. An attribution ledger that rolled up quarterly and published names next to results. A pre-order policy that was as simple as a light switch. A training cadence that paired junior analysts with client-facing moments so they learned how to keep their names in their own mouths when rooms got loud. The ledger was not sexy. It was a spreadsheet with a conscience. Wins were logged with specific contributors and verifiable artifacts, commit histories, purchase orders, client feedback where the pronoun matched the person. Losses were logged with the same care. There was a column labeled Noise, where we recorded the beautiful speeches that often arrive after the work is done. That column was not scored. It was observed. We announced the ledger in a meeting where I said almost nothing and Priya said exactly what needed saying. Attribution is not a vibe, she said. It is an address. Put the package on the right porch. There were grumbles. There were jokes. What is next? Someone asked, an applause meter. Priya smiled. Yes, she said. It is called retention. Brandon did not grumble. He smiled and asked questions that sounded reasonable until you listened for the second sentence. What if a deal closes because of a relationship? He asked. There is no sell for that. There is, Priya said. It is called account owner. You already have credit there. He nodded, gracious on the surface. Later that week, a planner sent me a note with a screenshot of a Slack exchange. Brandon had typed, "We can log the official credit and then fix it in the speech." I saved the screenshot with the date and the context. Then I called Priya. No confrontations, I said. Just rules. She set a new one the next day. No speeches at internal reviews, she announced. We do written thank yous that we can archive and search. The first quarter under the new system felt like trying to teach your feet a different way to walk. People stumbled. Some performed gratitude like a language exam. Some tried to smuggle old habits under new headers. The ledger did not care. It recorded. Slowly, the room learned. In the middle of that quarter, Brandon's promotion party date arrived. He sent an invite with a graphic that looked like a champagne bottle had married a trophy. I accepted. Not to be magnanimous. To be exact. The rooftop looked familiar, string lights, too many roses. Garrett opened with a speech that thanked our sales warriors. He name-checked clients who liked golf and deals that survived storms that could have been avoided. Then he turned to Brandon. Some people are born closers, he said. Some people learn how to hold a room. Brandon was both. Brandon took the mic and did exactly what he had promised in the Slack I had saved. He logged the official credit and then fixed it in the speech. He thanked operations for making things look easy. He thanked planners for keeping us honest. He thanked my wife, who keeps the app world spinning. Laughter. He held the pause. Do not worry, babe. We are the ones paying the light bill. A few people winced. Most laughed. They had not been in my kitchen. They did not know how heavy a small joke can be when you carry it every night. I did not leave. When the open gratitude portion began, I stood with Tess and two junior planners who looked like sparrows on a rail, bright and skittish. If you want to say something, I said, say it. If you want to keep it, keep it. I was not there to manufacture a scene. I was there to make sure a door existed if they wanted to walk through it. Tess raised her hand first. She told a simple story about a client who stopped calling at midnight because a reorder happened at noon. She named 2 planners and 1 analyst. She did not say, we. She said their names. The room clapped, a little unsure, like learning a new song. Brandon smiled, teeth like fixtures. He clapped, too hard. He turned to Garrett and said something I could not hear. Garrett nodded the way men nod when they want to signal that they see the world correctly. At the edge of the crowd, Evan from Arcadia appeared beside me like a punctuation mark. Good show, he murmured. This is not a show, I said. It is a floor. He tilted his head. And it is holding. On the way out, Brandon caught my elbow. His fingers were soft but the gesture was not. You had to bring your people, he said. They are Fortis people, I said. And they were already here. He laughed without humor. You think rules will make you a queen? I think rules will keep me from becoming a tyrant, I said. That is the difference between us. He let go of my elbow like it had burned him. We will see, he said. We did not kiss goodnight when we got home. We did not talk about the roses, the roses, the roses. We did not talk about the ledger. We slept beside each other like two countries in a ceasefire. The space between us did not hurt. It felt like a border finally recognized. The first quarter close under the new plan arrived with fewer emergencies and more uncomfortable emails. The ledger showed that planned orders saved money. Finance wrapped the numbers in a bow called less waste. Operations called it, finally. Sales felt the pinch. Not because they were worse. Because they could no longer convert chaos into heroism. Brandon fought that math with charm. He lobbied for strategic exceptions, a phrase that smells good until you check the kitchen. Friendship matters, he said in a leadership huddle, eyes on Garrett, not on the spreadsheet. If I can keep a relationship by bending a rule, the long-term value is bigger than this quarter's math. Priya did not raise her voice. Then name the value, she said. We will log it and check it a quarter later. Garrett cleared his throat. Let us not kill initiative, he said, defaulting to a narrative that had worked for him since he learned to hold a microphone. We are not, I said. We are ending the subsidy for initiative that burns the building down for a marshmallow. Garrett did not like the metaphor. Evan did. Log the exception, he said. Make it visible. Brandon nodded, agreeable in the minutes and explosive in the messages. He wrote to a planner, just move this one. Do not flag it. No one will know. The planner forwarded the message to Priya. Priya forwarded it to compliance. Compliance called me. I called Evan. No direct confrontation, I said. Process. The next day, Priya sent a company-wide memo with a sentence only a lawyer could love and a mechanic could respect. Any exception not logged is a violation of policy and will be treated as a falsification of records. There were no exclamation points. There was a link to a form. We did not mention Brandon. That is not how you build culture. You build it with the sentence you can use again. At home, the ceasefire ended with a sound as small as a spoon on a mug. Brandon did not look up from his phone. Are you happy? He asked. You turned us into hall monitors. I turned us into adults, I said. The policy is a seat belt. If you hate it, you can drive without one. You just cannot do it in this car. He laughed. Spreadsheets and metaphors, he said. You must be so proud. I am not proud, I said. I am tired. He put his phone down. Of me? Of being smaller so you can feel larger, I said. He rolled his eyes and went for the old dagger. You are emotional, he said. I am a person, I said. You should try it. He stood. There it is, he said. The real you. No, I said. This is the whole me. You have been editing. He shook his head and left the kitchen. I wiped the counter with a dishcloth that did not need wiping. Then I put the dishcloth down and laughed, not because anything was funny, but because the sentence that had once pierced me now sounded like a toy sword. At work, we kept moving. The second quarter numbers arrived. Revenue was steady. Costs were lower. The ledger showed names I had not seen before, junior analysts, a quiet planner in Tulsa, a night shift lead who never stood near microphones. Priya read those names into a room that was not used to hearing them. Something in the company's shoulders dropped. Brandon's line softened. Exceptions had prices, and he was the one who had asked to pay with other people's sleep. He did not like invoices with his name on them. He pressed Garrett for a special initiative that would put him back at the center. Garrett asked me for my blessing. I recused. Priya decides, I said. Priya said no. We do not need a circus to sell groceries, she said. Brandon filed a complaint with People Operations claiming bias because of our marriage. The head of People Operations set up a meeting with legal, me, Priya, and Brandon. She began with the policy paragraph I had insisted we publish the day I took the Arcadia role. Executives who are married to employees do not directly supervise, evaluate, or influence compensation decisions for their spouses, she read. Any alleged conflict is addressed by removing the executive from the decision and appointing another leader. She looked at Brandon. That is what we did. Astra did not decide. Priya did. Brandon turned to me. You put her there. Evan spoke for the first time. Arcadia did, he said. Because she is the right person. Brandon leaned back, performative defeat. This is a witch hunt, he said. Priya did not blink. Witches are imaginary, she said. Spreadsheets are not. I almost smiled. After the meeting, Evan walked me to the elevator. You kept your boundaries, he said. Good. I am not doing this to win, I said. I am doing this so I can sleep. Same, he said. Promotion reviews at Arcadia were long tables and short patience. Priya and I sat with the head of People Operations, Finance, and two senior leaders from divisions that had nothing to do with Fortis. That was the point. If a story could not cross the hall, it did not deserve a corner office. Garrett presented first. He walked us through revenue lines like a realtor walks you through a house he wants you to love. Yes, the stairs squeak, but look at this light. He ended with the reason we were there. I am recommending Brandon for a division vice president role. On what basis? Finance asked, eyes on the ledger, not on the roses from the party that still seemed to follow Garrett like a cologne. Relationships, Garrett said confidently. He holds the room. Clients love him. Priya pulled up the exceptions log. He also asked planners to hide overrides, she said. That is not leadership. That is leakage. Garrett bristled. We are all adapting, he said. Do not punish learning. We are not, I said. We are rewarding learning. Show me what changed. Garrett gestured at a slide with a client quote. They sent this note after Brandon's dinner. The head of People Operations tapped the screen. The note thanks the planner by name, she said. Garrett shifted to the tried and true. Morale matters, he said. If we deny this, we send a message. We are, Evan said from the back. We are sending the message that promotion follows behavior, not volume. Silence settled like dust after a hammer stops. I held my face open. This was not a roast. It was a review. And reviews are only cruel if you built your ladder out of other people's wood. We can revisit in 2 quarters, Priya said. With clean exceptions and measured improvements. Garrett threw his last chip. You are letting a marriage ruin a career. People Operations did not blink. The marriage is why Astra does not get a vote, she said. The ledger is why the answer is not yet. Garrett looked at me, the kind of look that asks you to make yourself smaller for the sake of peace. I did not lower my eyes. Not yet is generous, I said. We could say not ever if the behavior stays the same. We moved on. We promoted a planner in Tulsa. We gave a raise to a night shift lead. We created a new role for Tess to train other teams in writing client communications that reduce churn. The room learned to clap for names that were not on the holiday banner. That night, Brandon did not come home for dinner. He texted at 9, late. At 10, do not wait up. At midnight, nothing. I fell asleep and dreamed about ladders that did not bend when you climbed them. In the morning, he was at the table, hair damp, eyes like someone who had discovered that truth remains true after sunrise. You blocked me, he said. I recused, I said. Data blocked you. He laughed without sound. You are very good at this. I am finally allowed to be, I said. He stood. I am thinking about leaving, he said. You should do what lets you sleep, I said. That is what I am doing. He waited for me to beg him to stay. I did not. He picked up his keys and left. The door did not slam. It closed like a sentence that had finally found its period. Brandon did not quit that week. He drafted a resignation email and showed it to me like a hostage note. I could walk, he said, letting the cursor blink on the word sincerely as if the word might catch fire. You can, I said. You do not need my permission. He closed the laptop without sending. What he wanted was not a door. He wanted a chase. Arcadia moved on without him. Priya and I spent mornings with planners and afternoons with finance. Tess flew to 3 sites and trained support teams to write the kind of emails that reduce churn by telling the truth before the apology. Evan kept his promises about legal. When a supplier tried to float a rumor that our threshold policy was hurting small vendors, Arcadia sent a letter that read like a poem if you love compliance. The rumor died of boredom. At home, Brandon performed peace. He made dinner twice and criticized my cutting board 3 times. He texted me a photo of a rental house with a dock. Imagine summers, he wrote. I stared at the screen for a long time and typed back, imagine rest. He sent a thumbs up. A joke without laughter. 2 Fridays later, I found out why he had not resigned. Garrett had whispered a new path, a lateral move to a sister division with a title that sounded larger than it was. Brandon showed me the email on his phone like a magic trick. They value me, he said. They do, I said. And the policy still applies. He frowned. You cannot touch me there. I never touched you here, I said. Policies did. He rolled his eyes. You are insufferable. I am consistent, I said. He took the lateral and wore it like a victory. His new business cards had a shine to them that looked like progress from a distance. Up close, the ink smelled like the same old room. Meanwhile, the ledger did what ledgers do. It recorded. In the 2nd month of his new role, Brandon tried to reintroduce unlogged exceptions under a different name. He called them relationship accelerators. Priya called them what they were. Finance put numbers on the cost. The exceptions slowed because they had to walk through the new door marked price. One afternoon, after a long day of meetings where no one raised their voice and everything still mattered, Evan called me into the glass room with the plant that refuses to die. He closed the door and leaned on the frame like a person who knows news should sit down first. The board wants you to consider staying longer than interim, he said. We can take the acting off the title. I always thought that sentence would feel like confetti. It felt like a clean countertop. No crumbs. All utility. I want to say yes, I said. On 2 conditions. He smiled. You and your conditions. Name them. 1, I said. We codify the attribution form as policy across the portfolio. Not a pilot. A requirement. Done. 2, I said. We publish the exception costs 4th quarter and give bonuses to teams that cut them without starving relationships. He laughed. Finance will knit you a sweater. Make it cotton, I said. I run hot. We shook hands. It was not a coronation. It was a calendar invite. That night, Brandon was waiting with a bottle open and 2 glasses clean. To your big title, he said. We should celebrate. We should rest, I said, pouring water instead. You have a lake house to dream about. He watched me over the rim of his glass. You really do not need me anymore, he said. I wanted you, I said. Wanting and needing are different muscles. I worked the wrong one for a long time. He set his glass down. So that is it. No, I said. That is the first honest sentence we have said to each other in months. He looked at the pantry whiteboard where my arc still lived. Erase it, he said softly. I will when it is true, I said. He slept in the guest room. In the morning, I wrote 3 sentences on a legal pad and tucked it into a new folder. The top line read, "What changes if I stop explaining?" Underneath, I wrote, "Everything," then crossed it out and wrote, "Enough." We did not throw parties with roses anymore. We hosted a different kind of celebration in the cafeteria at 4 on a Thursday. No string lights. No microphones. Index cards with names and contributions lined up on a folding table. Kira drove in from Steel River and brought donuts that tasted like victory pretending to be pastry. Priya stood by the ice bucket, the same kind of stainless tub that once sweated over my shoulder on a rooftop. She had filled it with seltzer and lemon slices. "Center of the room," she said, patting the rim. On purpose. We toasted not to heroes but to habits. Tess read the names of planners whose quiet decisions had erased midnight calls. Finance handed out small envelopes with surprise bonuses tied to lower exception costs. People clapped in the messy, lovely way groups clap when they recognize themselves in the list. Halfway through, Garrett walked in with Brandon 2 steps behind him. Garrett smiled like a man trying a new language. "We heard there was a party," he said. "There is," Priya said. "You are welcome." Garrett glanced at the index cards. The handwriting did not impress him. That was fine. The math did. Brandon stood near the doorway, palms in pockets, a smile that did not reach his eyes. He scanned the room for a stage and did not find one. He scanned the room for me and did. He lifted his chin in a silent challenge that used to pull me into performing. I did not move. I handed Kira a marker to correct a misspelled last name on her team's card. At the end, a junior analyst raised her hand. "Can I say something?" she asked. She looked 19 and tired in the way people look when their brains are sprinting faster than their bodies can feed them. "Please," I said. She turned to the room, and then, unexpectedly, to Brandon. "When exceptions were hidden, I was scared to speak up," she said. "I thought I would get labeled difficult. When we started logging them, I slept. I just wanted to say thanks to whoever wrote that sentence." She did not know she was thanking me. She did not need to. She was thanking the policy. That is the goal. Brandon swallowed. His jaw flexed. He looked like a man trying to find his reflection in a window that had been replaced by a mirror. After the applause settled, Garrett cleared his throat. "Changes take time," he said, aiming for neutral. "Thanks to everyone for leaning in." It was the closest I would get to a concession speech. I did not need more. On the way out, Brandon stopped beside the ice bucket and touched the rim like a person checking if something is real. "You made all this," he said. "We made all this," I said, glancing at Priya and Tess and Kira and the junior who had just spoken. "You can be part of it." He shook his head, small and stubborn. "I am not built for your spreadsheets." "No," I said. "You are built for relationships. Now you know their price." He laughed once. "You always have the last line." "I have the ledger," I said. "It is different." That night, we sat at the kitchen table with the legal pad between us. No shouting. No list of grievances. Just the smallest, hardest words. "We are done," I said. He traced the edge of the pad with his finger, the way a person does when they are pretending they do not need to hold on to something. "You will be fine," he said. It was an accusation and a blessing. "So will you," I said. It was a hope and a warning. We divided the accounts without hiring a referee. We scheduled one meeting with a lawyer to file what needed filing. We did not post anything. We did not write captions. He moved to a short-term rental near his new office. I did not check the view. The next morning, I erased the pantry arc and drew a box. Inside it, I wrote 2 words. Keep going. Quarter close came with fewer emails and more sleep. Finance presented a slide that should have been boring and was beautiful. Exception costs, down by almost half. On-time orders, up by almost a third. Emergency overtime, cut to a sliver that made the night shift clap for the first time in a meeting. Garrett spoke first. "Good trend," he said, and then, catching himself, added, "Good work." Priya nodded and handed the mic to a planner who had never held one. He stumbled on the first sentence, then found his voice. "I stopped feeling like my job was to keep secrets," he said. It helped. Afterwards, in the glass room, Marisol dropped by with coffee that tasted like she had paid a tax to buy it. "I came to see your boring slides," she said, smiling. "They are my favorite kind of fireworks," I said. She leaned back. "You staying?" "For a while," I said. "Long enough to make replacements unnecessary." "Good answer," she said. Evan joined us, sleeves rolled, expression easy. "The board wants to make permanent what was supposed to be temporary," he said. "Say the word." "Say the policy," I said. "Put it in the handbook." "Make it boring on purpose." He laughed. "You are going to ruin parties." "I am going to improve mornings," I said. Brandon's name did not appear on any slide. That was not punishment. That was math. He sent me a text that afternoon with a photo of a lake and a caption that read, "Not our porch." I typed, "I wish you rest," and put the phone face down. Wishing does not have to be a bridge. That evening, I stood in the kitchen and looked at the empty whiteboard. I did not draw a new map. I boiled pasta and called my mother, who still uses the same pot for everything and thinks titles are hats you take off when you sit down at dinner. "I am proud of you," she said. "Not for the words on your door. For the sleep in your voice." I cried in the quiet way you cry when the thing someone names is not the thing you posted about. Before bed, I wrote a note to the team. Not a speech. A sentence. "Thank you for making boring brave." They replied with thumbs and hearts and one photo of a planner holding a mug that read, "Attribution is an address." I did not know who made the mug. I ordered 3. On a Friday that smelled like rain, Events rolled a stainless tub into the cafeteria and set it in the middle of the room. Not for champagne. For water, lemons, and something that felt like a joke only the room understood. Priya tapped the rim with a spoon. "Attention for 1 minute," she said. New tradition. At the end of each quarter, we read 3 names from the ledger and 3 policies we stuck to. She lifted a card. Planner in Tulsa. Night shift lead in Dayton. Analyst in Joliet. And the policies: log exceptions, publish attribution, pay for calm. We clapped. We drank water. We went back to work. That is how culture hardens. Not with confetti. With repetition. Later, in my office, Evan stopped by and leaned a shoulder against the door, the way people do when they are about to say something generous without making a fuss. "You know the best thing about all this?" he asked. "Tell me." "You made yourself unnecessary." I smiled. "Working on it." He pointed toward the cafeteria. "And you made that bucket the center." "It used to drip on my shoulder," I said. "Now it holds the room." He nodded and left, because some compliments are better without an encore. Before I shut my laptop for the weekend, I wrote one more note, this time to the person on the other side of this story. You, with the paper cuts. You, with the ledger in your head that no one sees. I did not expose my husband to watch him fall. I took a job above his boss because the ladder needed fixing and no one else would bring a hammer without a mirror. I did not stay to win a crown. I stayed to make the crown unnecessary. If someone in your life keeps calling your work little so they can feel big, hear me, you are not dramatic for wanting your name on your own work. You are not ungrateful for demanding a room that claps for the right reasons. You do not have to roast anyone to review what is true. Start small. Write the sentence that scares you and put it where you can see it. Find one ally with a spine and a calendar. Build a ledger out loud. And when you get the chance, move the ice bucket to the middle of the room and fill it with water. Then say the names. Again and again, until it is boring. If this found you at the right time, Tell me one policy you wish your team had. Or tell me where you are listening from. I read the notes, even the short ones. And if you want more stories where the ending is not a fireworks show but a better morning, stay. We have work to do. The kind you can see. The kind that lets people sleep. I turned off the light, walked past the cafeteria, and touched the rim of the stainless tub. Cold. Ordinary. Exactly right.